This is the Last Minute Blues Podcast with Alex Ferrario, Donnie Fandango, Jeremy Rutherford, and Jeff Burton on 101 ESPN.
The Last Minute Blues Podcast is presented by Blue Note Roofing. Roofing, siding, and gutters. Your St. Louis roofing experts. Visit BlueNoteRoofing.com for a free inspection.
Well, folks, here we are, new episode of the Last Minute Blues Podcast, joined in the Jeff Burton studio by Alex Ferrario from 101 ESPN. Our friend Jeremy Rutherford is he's out. He's on the road.
He said, I'm taking this ball game on the road for the Blues. I'm going to the East Coast.
So I'm very curious about this, and this is funny for me as an outsider looking in, but in thinking of the title of the last JR Athletic piece about the Blues, and then directly having to go out on the road with them.
This is awkward. Well, on top of it, he's the only beat writer that's on this road trip with them. It's not like Lou's not here on the road. Matt DeFranks of the Post isn't on the road. It's just JR. Now, most of those guys in that locker room know how professional JR is. He's been around long enough, and he didn't put anything in that article that they don't know. They're a bad team right now. But yeah, I can't imagine JR walking up to one of them and need to get a quote and then being like, oh yeah, I wrote that piece.
It's such, man, and I try to, in situations, I honestly try to think of all parties concerned here. And if you're an athlete, I certainly have a level of empathy, for you in certain situations. But I mean, when the team is not great and what's being told is literally facts, truths. I mean, It's not like you're taking jabs at people or players. That ain't happening. It's just the truth. It has to just piss you off because they're right. You know what I mean? It doesn't even have to do anything really other than just, damn it, you're right. I know it. We all know it, and it sucks.
Well, and then on top of it, as a player, because me personally, if I see something like that, it's like, oh, I'm going to prove them wrong. I'm going to show them up.
Yeah.
I would imagine every one of those players are thinking the same thing. It's kind of bulletin board material for the players, right? We're going to show everybody that we're not bad. But then to go out and lose again, oh, God, that's got to sting. All of those guys got pride. That's the part that's so hard when people say, they don't care, they're not trying. It's like, oh, no, believe me, I've seen it in that locker room when they're bad. They get pissed off. They're frustrated. I mean, look no further than Pavel Buchnevich, the frustration he's got right now. But that's got to sting even more as a professional athlete. Sure, I make all of the money that everybody says, you get paid, who cares? But God, it's got to eat at you when you know that you're bad. People are posting articles that you're bad. You're going out to try and prove them wrong, but yet you still struggle to find ways to win. That's got to be a gut-wrencher.
All right, Last Minute Blues Podcast brought to you by Blue Note Roofing, roofing, siding, and gutters, your St. Louis roofing experts. Visit BlueNoteRoofingSTL.com for a free inspection. So, Alex, one of the things that we do with the podcast, we try to keep the podcast relevant for more than a day or so, but I really do want to kind of backtrack here with a couple of these games.
Yeah.
What was worse for you? The Friday losing 2-goal leads twice to Philadelphia and then losing, or the absolute ghosting that was the loss on Saturday night to Vegas, where, I mean, dude, it was just very disheartening. I'll say that. And then last night, was a bummer. And then I start to feel kind of okay about the fact that they went to overtime, got a point, and then I start thinking about that was a Leafs team that didn't have Matthews, Nyes, or the defenseman,
or Stolarz, or Nicholas Waugh, their third-line centerman.
So I don't know, man. I feel so stuck in this, Alex, because I don't want to give up hope, but I feel as though that in thinking, these guys are going to turn it around seems incredibly freaking naive at this point. I just feel kind of stuck here.
Yeah, well, and I think a lot of Blues fans feel like you, to where you're holding out hope that, they can figure out what's going on and turn it on like they did last year, right? Because you had that 26-game stretch where they were untouchable, and you're thinking okay, well, they can flip the switch if they need be. To answer your first question, I think that Vegas game was probably one of the worst losses this season right up there with the Washington Capitals game.
Which is saying something.
It's saying something, because to give up two goal leads against Philadelphia, that's bad. But here's why I wouldn't put it in the same category as Vegas. Because, man, they kept pushing. Like, they found ways to just keep extending the lead. The offense was there. You had your top dogs showing up for you. You played bad defensively. Mm-hmm. And that I can look at and say, okay, well, if you get your offense, you can tighten up the defense. You can't give up those leads, but you know what? There were elements that it's like, cool. At least you're trending in the right direction, mm-hmm. right? Because what have we been complaining about? Your best players haven't shown up.
Yeah.
Holloway had 3 points. Kyrou had 3 points. Thomas picked up points. Like, everybody was going. That Vegas game, lifeless. And to lose the way you lost to Philadelphia, you would expect some type of response. You'd expect some type of pushback from the team, non-existent. Mm-hmm. Now, I know Jim Montgomery was a little bit more of, we had moments in the second period. I thought Justin Falk nailed it postgame, where he said, we looked like we were in autopilot. The bench was lifeless. They went, I think I'm going to get these numbers right. They went about 11 minutes in that first period without a shot on goal.
Yeah.
I think it was 18:36 from the first to the second period, but didn't have a shot on goal in the first 10 minutes of that second period, and then didn't have a shot on goal in the first 9.5 minutes of the third period. Like, you can't go 3 periods without a shot on goal in the first 10 minutes of each of them. That to me is just, there's no life. And to hear Justin Falk say that they were on autopilot, the bench was lifeless, that's a problem, because you're 19 games in. You're not out of it by any means, but boy, there's got to be some urgency from you at this point. So that's why the Vegas felt a lot like the Capitals game, because that Capitals one, remember, Montgomery comes out afterwards and says, we weren't ready from puck drop.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, how are you not ready from puck drop? Same thing was against Vegas. Vegas was without Mark Stone, didn't have Alex Pietrangelo, didn't have their best goaltender in Aiden Hill, and you put 17 shots on goal. So that's why that Vegas one stung. The Maple Leafs one felt like it was like, okay, really? Because they played so good in the
back half of the game?
Yeah, I mean, really, in the whole regulation, it felt like they were the better team against Toronto, with the exception of 10 minutes in the second period. But again, you'd expect to be better than that team. But man, the way you lost that in overtime, where it's a 2-on-1 along the boards, you get beat on a board battle by one guy, and that one guy was on the ice for 1 minute and 36 seconds.
So he should have been tired. He should have been able to get that damn puck from him.
He was gassed, and all of it stemmed from them not putting the puck on net. So there's a lot of issues to kind of like wrap it all together in a gift right now, or not a pretty gift. To JR's article, I think this team might just be bad. And I don't know what that means for the rest of this season. I don't know what this means for the future of the roster. But to have 2 games in about, a 2-week span of Washington and Vegas, where both games, coaches and players are saying that there's no life in the team, that's concerning.
All right, so here's what I want to do, Alex. Obviously, we do the emails towards the end of the podcast, but we had a couple specific emails that I thought were really, really good and were worth mentioning before we get to the email segment a little later on. And I think that this particular question, man, when I read this from Daniel, I was just like, spot on. I couldn't wait to ask you. He says, hey, Donnie, Alex, and whom it might concern.
That's JR. He's on the road. JR's the whom it may concern.
I have a question that I'm sure a lot of Blues fans might hate. Did the Blues make the wrong decision in investing in Thomas and Kyrou? They are both great players, but I get the feeling neither of them wants anything to do with being a leader for this team, and we keep forcing them to. It seems every year we have the same issues with the team starting slow, and they seem to be at the center of that. All that said, I still love Kyrou and still want to get him to put on my 22 Winter Classic jersey. Keep up the great work as always. That's from Daniel. I do want to say this before we talk about that. I thought that Kyrou had a really good game last night.
Awesome.
My man was all over the place.
Attempts.
Dude, he was all over the place.
Yeah.
When he picked, was it at Nylander's pocket?
Uh-huh.
Whoa, who is this guy? I love to see it. Like, man, What is going on? But it's a great question from Daniel. Did they make a mistake on these core guys?
It's hard not to question that right now. It's so hard for me to say definitively, yes, they made a mistake or no, they didn't, because they're 26 and 27 years old. Like, you're still in the prime window of these guys. And for $8 million, even if they're both 80-plus point performers, that's a really good thing to have. Mm-hmm. But to Daniel's question, you do have to start wondering about the consistency of these guys, because the teams that are in that winning window, those best players show up every night. Every single night. Like the other night, I was watching the Winnipeg Jets game. Every night, I can expect Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor to be at the best of their game and be effective somehow. Even if they don't score, they show up on the score sheet. They're going to be impactful in that game. Go over to the Chicago Blackhawks right now. Connor Bedard every single night is an impact player for that team. Now, he's a first overall pick, and we're talking about a guy who was selected later in the first round and later in the second round. But here's where I get concerned about them investing in these players. They disappear at times. And I don't know if that's because their ceiling in terms of the effectiveness on a nightly basis is probably what we've seen from Robert Thomas, where it's, 80 to 85 points, and it's going to be hot streaks and cold streaks. Jordan Kyrou, where he's going to disappear for 10 games, but then 10 games, he's going to look like what he has last night, where he puts up 12 shot attempts and finds the back of the net. If they're inconsistent, that's not a bad thing. But to have those two guys that are needed to be the main players that pull you into the fight, that's where I start to wonder. Now, they've got other pieces that become a part of this core. Like, to me, Jake Neighbors is a core piece of this team. Mm-hmm. And when he comes back, what's the impact look like? Jimmy Snuggerud is going to be a core piece of this team.
He is so goddamn good.
Everywhere.
Oh, my God.
The plays that he has, it's like, oh, my gosh, look at the skill. Dylan Holloway, in my opinion, going to be a core member of this team. But all of these guys are looking towards Thomas and Kyrou. And you can't just go in and out of hockey games. You're going to have to be there every single night. Like that Vegas Golden Knights game, not effective. Like, you weren't there. The Washington Capitals game, you weren't there. I think that's the reason why we saw Jordan Kyrou scratched the next game. But when you see them against Toronto, when you see them against Philadelphia, that's where it's like, oh my gosh. So I know this is a roundabout way of answering it. I don't know if they're the wrong core pieces, but you do have to really start questioning the same issues popping up for 4 years.
Yeah, man.
3 coaches that have been brought in, and you're still having the same question of, why is the team starting slow? Why do they lack energy? Are they out of the playoffs? And then all of a sudden they go on a hot streak. That's problematic if they're the core pieces of your team.
It's freaking maddening, Alex.
Yep.
It's so maddening.
But isn't it what we were talking about in that Cup season? Like, prior to the Cup season, they missed the playoffs by 1 point, that last game against Colorado? They start that year poorly.
So poorly.
They're at the bottom of the standings, and what were we talking about? This core is broken. This isn't the right core that's going to get it done. Doug Armstrong had called everybody around the National Hockey League and said, it's a fire sale. Call, what do you want? I've got them for you. And then all of a sudden they turned it on and they got hot. If it's that problem, you can't just always rely on a hot streak for 25, 30 games. You got to start off consistently, and you have to have it for 82 games. It's not an easy brand of hockey to play. It's not an easy sport to play. But man, you can't float in and out of games and be looking for reasons to pull you into the fight. You've got to be the reason that the team is pulled into the fight.
It's just so frustrating to watch, Alex.
Yep.
Yeah, and I understand, brother, I understand it's not easy, okay? There are great players on the other team, too, that are trying to stop you.
Yeah.
But I have also seen multiple times, seen Thomas lock down some of the best players in the league like it's nobody's business. And I just believe that it's in there somewhere with that guy, but we still have not fully tapped that potential. And I feel like I'm doing the method of insanity. I'm doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, expecting different results.
Well, in the NHL, it has that trend of when things aren't going well, what do? Fire the coach. You're not firing the coach here with Jim Montgomery. Nope. This is the guy. So that's when you get to the point of Daniel's question, if you start to look at the player and you're wondering, man, what's going on right here? Because I've seen it at his best. Like, I don't expect him to be a 2-point per game player. I don't expect him to put up 120 points. That's a Connor McDavid level that he's not. But I watch him play when he's at his best, and I'm like, that's a number one centerman. On any team, you go around the league and you say, yeah, I'd pluck him right there. I guess I shouldn't say any team because Edmonton's got a couple of that are ahead of him. But most teams in the NHL, you put Robert Thomas on that squad, he's a number one centerman for you. The question is the consistency of it. Is he a guy that is in and out of games, or is he a guy that can turn it on and be there every single night? That's what the Blues are trying to figure out. And that, to me, is what a core piece is of a team.
These questions about Thomas and Kyrou make me want to bang my head against the wall.
I think it probably makes them want to bang their head against the wall, too.
It is just so flippin' frustrating to be here talking about essentially the same damn thing that we have been damn talking about.
And you know, one more thing on that, Donnie, like, I do think that the Blues as a team suffer, like, maybe these guys are thrusted into something that they're not capable of. Mm-hmm. And this isn't meant to be a shot. The same thing can be said for what they did with Colton Parayko. When they walked away from Alex Pietrangelo, or he walked away from the team, what did they say? Colton Parayko is the alpha dog. Was he ready to be the alpha dog?
At that time, no.
I don't think so. No. And it took him a while to get there. But even when we feel like he is an alpha dog, now he's got Philip Broberg, who's there with him. Last year, he had Cam Fowler. You know, for his smallest time, it was Jay Bouwmeester that was playing with him. They were searching for those alpha dogs to play with them. Are they doing the same thing with Thomas and Kyrou, to where these are the guys that are going to carry us moving forward? I think that's good. Maybe they're suffering from having that one piece that is the superstar. You know, like, You look around the National Hockey League and you look at certain teams, like, I think everybody sees Dallas and they say, you know, Wyatt Johnston, he's a star. But is Wyatt Johnston doing this because he's also got a Mikko Rantanen and he had a Jason Robertson? Yeah. You know, you go to the Winnipeg Jets and you look at Mark Scheifele. Mark Scheifele is a stud. But is Mark Scheifele doing this because he's got Kyle Connor with him? Yeah. You wonder if Robert Thomas's ceiling as a number one elite centerman can't get there until you have another guy who's consistent with him as that scoring punch.
Absolutely so. All right, well, here's another question I don't want to ask, but we got to ask. And this one's coming from Dan, and I thought another really good one. Also, I just want to comment in general, the emails are always so good. Oh, yeah. I mean, people are really frustrated, and I completely get it. But like, I feel as though the things that they're asking, that they're wanting to know, it just feels like really good, inquisitive questions. So keep the emails coming, lmbp at 1057thepoint.com. This one coming from Dan, all right? Buchnevich gets demoted to the third line for lack of production, but is still on power play 1. He is moved back up with Thomas and Kyrou in the third. Has 2 shifts in overtime, 1 with shin. We're beyond the doing little things and, quote, just needs an opportunity to get out of the funk, end of quote. He's been given every opportunity and it's just not there. If I was a less experienced, lower paid player, I think I'd be getting a little salty by now. Make it make sense. Dan from Washington, Mo. Listen, man, I like Buch. I have liked Buch since he got here. However, the version of Pavel Buchnevich that we see now does not seem like the same one that we saw before he signed the big deal. I am concerned that we're in it for the long haul with this big deal. And even if he is going into the corners, even if he is doing the little things like Dan said, you're getting paid a significant amount of money to be a producer and you're not producing. Talk to me, Goose. Yeah. What in the hell is going on here?
So let me preface the Buchnevich stuff by something Jim Montgomery said a couple of days ago, because he was asked, you know, if Pavel Buchnevich is going through it and how you coach him. And he said, yeah, he's going through it right now. He's frustrated that he's not producing. All this guy wants to do is win, and he's just not finding a way to help the team win. But he also talked about how, you know, you coach Buchnevich differently than you coach other players, because, you know, he's a guy that in a game you can bark at him and he responds because he gets frustrated and he goes out there and he puts it into action. He's a guy that plays well when he gets angry, but if you do it in practice, he'll check out. And so this is the human element of the game that you've got to figure out how to handle these players. I know a lot of people have been screaming from their rooftops of, you got to scratch Pavel Buchnevich. The concern of scratching Pavel Buchnevich is you lose him even more, because if it's a guy that's already mentally broken and he's trying to get out of it, you put him in the press box. Does he respond with
kind of kicking a dog while he's down sort of thing?
Does he respond with, I'm going to go back there and I'm going to turn it on, or I'm terrible and I'm never going to get this back.
Right.
So that's the happy medium. So here would be another question to Dan asking Pavel Buchnevich, and if you're listening, Dan, right now, who would you put in the lineup for Pavel Buchnevich? Your scratches the other night were Bukestad and Texier. You would probably say Bukestad, fine. But I don't know if Bukestad can do the same things that Pavel Buchnevich can do. Like, can do is the emphasis there. All of that being said, I do think it might be time to scratch Pavel Buchnevich. When Jake Neighbors returns, and I don't know if it's going to be on this road trip at some point. Mm-hmm. It's time to try something else. They've done everything. They took him off the first power play unit, and I know they put him back on it, but look, it's the 11th best power play in the National Hockey League. So it's obviously clicking there. They moved him to the third line. That's right up there with a healthy scratch. Like, you're demoting him from being a number one player. I think he played like 17 minutes against the Maple Leafs the other night. That's a demotion. But Pavel Buchnevich isn't even shooting right now. Like, that overtime goal that Toronto scored, it started in the offensive zone when the Blues possessed the puck. Broberg passed it to him for a 2-on-1. Pavel Buchnevich kind of fumbled the puck, and then he tried to pass it back over to Broberg. Gets picked off, goes back the other way. Broberg and Buchnevich are along the wall. They lose the board battle. Broberg's holding down the stick of Tavares. Buchnevich isn't retrieving the puck. Tavares kicks it back, and then you've got the goal that goes in. He had one shot attempt in that game, Donnie. I went back and looked at this through the last 10 games. He has had one game with more than 3 shot attempts in the last 10. So he's not shooting the puck. He's not going to the front of the net. He's not shooting the puck. And now you lost the board battle. And again, this isn't saying Pavel Buchnevich is an awful player. He's going through it right now. And I know you don't want to lose the guy. You might be at the point where when Jake Neighbors comes back, you need to get him a reset. They did the same thing with Jordan Kyrou. What did they say? He needs a reset.
Yeah.
You might just need a reset. Maybe it pisses Pavel Buchnevich off. Pavel Buchnevich, we've seen, when he's mad, he plays like one of the best players on the ice. But the defensive game from Pavel Buchnevich has slipped. The offensive game is just not there. He still has no goals at even strength, which I think it's just he and Steven Stamkos in the National Hockey League that don't have one. I think you're at the point of no return where if you're Jim Montgomery, when Neighbors comes back, you just look at Pavel Buchnevich and said, buddy, we just need you to reset. Go have a couple of hard practices. We're going to get you back in there, but you got to get your mind right.
What can we expect? Well, I don't want to put too much on Jake Neighbors, even though I do kind of view him as a little bit of a Superman sort of situation.
Everyone in St. Louis is putting it on him.
What's realistic to think? What kind of realistic expectation should we have with him coming back in the lineup? And then also, if it's not Buch, who's the odd man out, for this particular situation, who is then the odd man out?
My guess is if it's not Buch, then it's going to be Joseph. Okay. Joseph's going in and out of the lineup.
Which really sucks, man. I understand it, but man, you talk about a guy that brings it every single night that you don't ever have to question effort by. It's him. And I'm not saying that you got to hang your hat on that, but I really hate seeing a guy lose ice time who's been working his friggin' ass off every single opportunity that he's gotten this year.
Yeah, no, I 100%. Like, when he was healthy scratched a couple of games ago for the first time, I didn't like it because it's like, man, this is the only guy that's going out there and putting that same effort every single night. But he went out of the lineup, he came back into the lineup, and then the game slipped a little bit. And this, once again, is that human element where you got to know who you're coaching, because if you pull one out, you might lose that player. But I don't know if Joseph is the same guy now that what he was 5 games ago. But if it were me, I think Joseph stays in the lineup when Neighbors goes in and Buch would come out, because what I think it does is it sets the lines in a little bit more consistency. To me, Neighbors goes up there to play with Thomas and Snuggerud. You've got your net front presence, your playmaker, your goal scorer. Then that pushes Holloway down. I like Holloway with Thomas. It's not clicking when they're out there together. But then Holloway and Kyrou play together with Dvorsky. I think that's a line that actually has some chemistry. Shen doesn't have to play in your top six. Shen can play on that third line with Suter. And then you've got Joseph on the right wing with them. And then your fourth line is your fourth line. Mm-hmm. And then when Pavel Buchnevich has his reset, if they do that, I don't even know if they're going to, then Joseph comes out and you put Pavel Buchnevich in. And you probably put Pavel Buchnevich on that third line with Shen and Suter. I know a lot of people's reaction would be, well, that's a slow line. But when Buch is on, he's an incredibly defensive player. Like, shuts down other teams' best players. Him and Suter would be really good together. So Neighbors isn't going to fix this thing. He's not a Band-Aid that's going to just put it over a boo-boo and everything's fine. But he is going to bring energy, which this team desperately needs. He is going to bring a net front presence, which he is desperately needed because nobody else on this team seemingly is going to the front of the net. You need Jake Neighbors in that sense. But again, one guy doesn't fix all. He adds energy. Maybe it gives you a spark for a couple of games. It's not going to fix the whole problems.
Pretty good that three of our best players seem to be very mercurial.
I don't even know what mercurial means.
Well, like, isn't that
define it?
Like, that's like kind of like in and out, like man, like kind of on their own. They're kind of in their own head, in their own world, there when they want to be.
You just educated me because mercurial is like going to be my word of the day. Did you use word of the day toilet paper?
No, but I would. I absolutely, I would. I probably used it in the wrong context. This is when we could really use JR.
Yeah, you'd be able to. I'm going to use it to my 4-year-old and just see what she has to say. Like, honey, you're being mercurial right now. I need you to focus on daddy.
Before we got to take a break, I want to come back and get to a bunch of emails today. But man, there are many reasons for concern. But when you see Dalibor Dvorsky tee up one of those one-timers on the power play, oh, baby. It gives you a little something to look forward to, man.
That's the thing, and I know it's doom and gloom here, and you hope that they figure this out. But watching Dalibor Dvorsky and Jimmy Snuggerud play hockey,
yeah, man.
Dude, that, like, Curb said this on the broadcast last night, and I totally agree with it. Dvorsky can rifle it. Snuggerud can rifle it. Justin Carbonneau is doing that in juniors right now, and I know these are all younger guys. These are all the goal scorers that we're talking about that come up and actually with a flick of a wrist can find the back of the net. The hope is that one of these guys turns into that star that can play with Robert Thomas, but watching him on the power play, it's so funny how many people were complaining about the trade of Mailloux and Bolduc in the offseason at the start of the year. Mailloux was struggling. Bolduc was scoring goals left and right. Bolduc's gone scoreless for a while now. I think he's kind of playing in that third-line role.
And Montreal's not. They're kind of hitting
struggling
too, right?
Utah's struggling as well. We can touch on them a little bit later, but Bolduc in that 26-game stretch last year when they went on their run to make the playoffs post-Four Nations, he had 13 goals. 13 goals in 26 games. 9 of those 13 were on the power play.
Man.
Dalibor Dvorsky has 3 goals already, and what has he played? Less than 10 games?
Yeah.
All of them on the power play. So thinking like my conspiracy theory on this is Doug Armstrong saw Bolduc and said, that's a really good player, a really good piece. He's a power play threat. Dalibor Dvorsky is that for us. So we replace Dalibor Dvorsky with Bolduc, and you go get something that you desperately need. So Dvorsky's shot, along with Snuggerud's playmaking ability and shot, yeah, they've got some weapons that are going to come. It's just, you got to give it time to marinate before they get to the level that you need them to be.
A couple of things here real quick, and I don't want to... if I'm not mistaken in listening to the game last night, Mailloux had 2 goals since he's been in Springfield?
2 goals in 4 games for Springfield. Now, I think he's a -2. Plus minus is a weird stat, so you can't put everything into it. But, you're looking at how he's playing defensively. I haven't watched the games. It's just you see the highlights on there. But the goals that he has scored, both of them have been one-timers. That's what I think the Blues want from Mailloux is you got to be confident in your game. He wasn't even chipping in on the offensive side because he was so worried about making a mistake defensively.
Yeah.
They need him to chip in offensively, but you can't get to that until you're confident in the other side of the game, which is why they're letting him just figure it out in the minor leagues right now.
And I don't know why his name is escaping me right off the top of my head, but our homeboy from Boston, the big Galoot.
Oh, Lucic, the big Galoot.
Yeah, anything from him down there so far?
2 words, Galoot and mercurial.
Mercurial. I'm trying,
Galoot.
man.
I love
pushing
this.
it.
Donnie's over here educating all of us. Lucic, honestly, I haven't really heard much with him in the Thunderbirds. I think he's been playing in like the second line, but I don't think he scored any. I don't think he's picked up any points. He's just kind of been there, which he's the one that's hard for me to know. I don't know what the Blues are hoping for.
Right.
Like, I don't expect him to go down there. Like, you'd expect him to dominate in the AHL, but you also remember he's dealing with that groin injury.
So he might be just trying to get the engines rolling again.
Trying to figure it out, but on top of it, the AHL is just kind of a cluster, when they're down there. There's no rhythm to it. Lucic has spent 15 plus years playing in a rhythm league, so maybe it's just hard to come by. I would imagine Lucic is doing exactly what he did at the NHL. You go to the front of the net and you hope shots go off of you and find the back of the net. So I can't imagine there's a whole lot of AHLers that are wanting to drop mitts with Milan Lucic.
Yeah.
So I'm not expecting him to fight it all. I don't know what the Blues are. The Blues just must need the conditioning side of it and get him up to par where he feels like he's ready to go. And then you just bring him up and he's that 14th forward.
What do you like? Would you think a general timeline for him or you know what I'm saying? Because I would assume that the only reason that this is happening is so that he can be here at some point and probably not too far away.
That was my expectation as well, but I also look at it and say, well, where is he playing?
Right.
Who's going to come in the lineup?
Yeah.
Now, maybe he's fine with it. He just wants to be a part of an NHL team again. Or maybe they just want him to keep playing until an injury happens and then you put him in the lineup. My guess is if he's going to be up here, it would be after this road trip. Maybe you bring him up, you have him for that homestand after the holidays, and then hopefully he's just a part of this team and mesh in that locker room. Because depending on what happens on this road trip, you might be in a rough spot that you look at it and you say, hey, we just need some more energy, and maybe Milan Lucic provides it. But I thought he would have been here by now, but maybe they need more games for him to season himself before you bring him up to the NHL roster.
All right, well, let's do this, Alex. Let's take a break, and let's come back with a gang of listener emails. You all right with that?
I like gang.
All right. I think there was definitely a better way for me to say it. Could have just said lots. Regardless, we'll be back with more of the Last Minute Blues podcast coming next. All right, Mr. Ferrario. And again, we should...
A plethora.
A plethora.
That's
that would have been a way better say.
Word of the day.
Also, too, no JR today because he is on the road with the team as they do their New York run here in Philadelphia Thursday.
He had poutine in Toronto. My guess is Philly cheesesteaks on Thursday. Probably lots of pizza and hot dogs in New York for JR. He's going to be feeling good by the time he comes back for Thanksgiving.
You know, that's one thing, man, that I bet you that not Alex, you're Alex, but JR knows some really great spots in those cities for food.
Oh, absolutely. For how many times he's traveled with the team. Oh, yeah.
Man.
JR's got like the hook. He's probably got like he's a, what are they called? Concierge in hotels. He's like the concierge for road trips of beat writers.
Dude, all I can think about right now, and this is not have anything to do with hockey, is one of those big ass New York style fold over pieces of pizza.
Yeah. I keep thinking of Philly cheesesteaks. I've never had a Philly cheesesteak from Philly, but I have to imagine it's like fried chicken in Kentucky.
Dude, when they tell you that like they put Cheese Whiz on it, it sort of sounds disgusting, but then also makes me want to like eat the whole damn thing in 4 seconds.
Also makes you feel good when you use Cheese Whiz on everything at home. You're like, well, they do this in Philly on cheesesteaks. Right. They do it there. Why can't I do it here?
Right. It just makes sense. All right, so let's begin here with Nick. Nick says, "Hey boys, been a fan of the pod for years. I've been wondering why it doesn't seem like the defense are driving the offense like they were last year when everything was clicking so well. It seems like every game they are sitting at the blue line, not shooting the puck as much, and are really just there to help cycle the puck around to the wingers. Is it a side effect of other systems failing, the forwards unable to back check and cover defensively enough, or is it just a systems decision to run the offense in a different way? If so, why? We have had so much success with the defense pushing up and driving things. Thanks all, and Donnie, I will never recover from learning your last name isn't actually Fandango. Let's go Blues." That's from Nick. So that's a really great point. It did seem like the defense was driving that offense a lot, specifically friggin' Cam Fowler last year.
Yeah, Fowler has yet to score a goal. Parayko has yet to score a goal. I think Parayko went 8 games prior to that Maple Leafs one without a shot on goal, which is not Colton Parayko. But with that being said, I feel like they're involved, maybe not as heavily as they were last year in that stretch, still feel like they're involved. They're just not going in. I mean, Justin Falk has scored 2 or 3 times. Broberg has scored a couple of goals. I feel like they're in the offensive zone. Pucks aren't going into the net. Some of this is the forwards aren't taking the middle of the ice. Mm-hmm. I mean, your defensemen get involved when you take the eyes away from the goaltender, and goalies just see the shots, or guys are blocking the shots. So that's part of it. I also wonder if it's just a repercussion of where the team's at right now. If your team is worried about pucks going in or worried about playing defense,
they are not going to be setting up that offense like that.
You're not going to be involved. You're not going to be aggressive because the forwards aren't covering for you. So as soon as you pinch, there's going to be a mistake made. I think there's too much thinking on the ice. And then the other factor into this, there's a lot of webs to this, Donnie. I also think this is the causation of when you only have 2 pairs that you can trust late in games.
Yeah.
Now, they played a little bit more the other night with Kessel and Tucker, but man, you weren't using those guys 23 minutes a night last season. You were using them like 19 to 21 because you had the Suter and the Leddy that were playing a lot of minutes. So when these guys are already logging about 19 minutes by the time you get to the third period, you're just not going to get involved as much because 1, you're focusing on defense, and 2, you're managing your minutes a little bit more. So it's a weird thing right now. I do think a lot of this is just, it's because the team's overthinking everything because things aren't going well.
Yeah. All right. This one coming from Matt. Matt, hey guys, short and sweet. With 22 points, 18 goals, and 4 assists at the time of writing this email, which was on Friday, November the 14th during the Philadelphia Flyers meltdown, is there a chance Justin Carbonneau sees the NHL this year? Seems like this kid has the fire that we need. Thanks, and LGB from Matt.
Concise, Donnie. Did you see that email?
How about that, man?
Look at that.
Dude.
Oh,
bam.
Gosh.
Big bang boom.
Right there, ladies and gentlemen. Follow Nick's path. I don't think you'll see him this year, with the exception of if his team doesn't go deep into the junior hockey playoff, which is the Memorial Cup. Basically, there's a playoff bracket in their leagues. He's in the QMJHL. They've got the OHL and the WHL. And then essentially the best teams from those all fight for the Memorial Cup. And that's the one that's Junior's trophy, essentially the Stanley Cup. I think all of those playoffs basically go to the end of April. Mm-hmm. And so if you're talking regular season, second week of April, third week of April is when the NHL regular season ends. If his team is deep in a playoff run or they're going for the Memorial Cup, you won't see him at all. Now, if they go into the playoffs and his season is done, then there's a chance, because he's already signed that entry-level contract, that you'd get him up to the NHL level. Depending on where the AHL team is at, you could see him go to the AHL, but my guess would be you don't see him this year.
Let me follow that up with, what is a realistic expectation / timeline for Carbonneau to be in a Blue Note?
I mean, my guess is he's going to really have another shot next year. Now, I don't know if he makes the team. If they have their struggles this year, then I don't know what the roster looks like. Maybe we see guys go out and they just put younger players in. My assumption would be he would be old enough, if I'm not mistaken, to play in the AHL next year, because I think he'd be 20. He's got to be 20 to play in the AHL, but they got that new CBA coming in to where you can put one guy who's not 20 in the minors. So maybe that plays itself. My guess is he'll be in the AHL next year. I don't know if he's going to be at the NHL level, unless he dominates at training camp, but you got to assume Dvorsky's here next year. Snuggerud's already here. You'll have Holloway. You'll have Neighbors. You'll have Buchnevich. You'll have Jordan Kyrou. These 6 wingers right there.
Yeah. Didn't even say Thomas.
I didn't even say Thomas. You got Shen still, most likely. You'll have Pew Suter. You'll have Nick Bukestad. Again, all barring that these guys return next season and aren't moved at some point this year. But then I also didn't even mention Otto Stenberg. And Otto Stenberg's going to most likely be on this team. He barely made it this year out of camp. So I don't know if there's a spot for him unless he just completely dominates the competition. My guess is he's in the AHL next year, because by the end of this season, he's not going to have anything to prove in juniors hockey.
Adam writes in, first of all, I love this podcast, to listen to every single episode. The chemistry, the passion, it's the stuff I wish the Blues had right now. I loved most of the Flyers games, but can't remember a time we lost a 2-goal lead twice in one game. Any idea in the last time that happened?
No, not twice. They've lost 2-goal leads. I mean, they lost a 2-goal lead earlier this season when they lost to Detroit when they were up 4-0.
Right.
Not twice, though. And, it's not that it was just twice. It was, in like a 20-minute time frame, like, because they lost it in the second period and then they lost it again in the third period when they regained that lead. But no, my guess, if I were to have to look back on this, probably the year that they sold everything off and they drafted top 10. Was that the 22-23 season? 2-goal leads twice, though. That's rare. They say it's the worst lead in hockey, and I think
damn right
that
it is.
showcased it in that one.
Evan writes in, what's the deal with Alexandrov? And I don't know why when I said, what's the deal, I hear Jerry Seinfeld in my head. What's the deal with Pop-Tarts? Anyway, what's the deal with Alexandrov? He's been a point-per-game guy for 3 years in Springfield. He's 25 years old, has second-round draft capital, and was an in-house pick. Why don't people talk about this guy as a part of the future more often? Why isn't he in the mix for 4C or 3W? I doubt anyone in the Sonny, Bugstead, Texier cluster could put up a point per game in the AHL. What gives? That's from Evan. That's a damn good question, too.
It's an aggressive question, too, Evan. I think what gives with Alexandrov is they've seen this before. They've tried this before. I mean, he's been at the AHL or the NHL. Man, I have to look at this, but he's played close to 30 games, maybe at the NHL level. I just don't think he provides what the team needs him to provide. For the longest time, he was a centerman. I don't know if they use him as a centerman. I think in the AHL they might, but he's more of a winger now. I think that's where he's gotten a lot of his points. Who's he playing for, though? Like, you can say Texier and Sundqvist. He's not playing over Sundqvist. Sundqvist is a defensively reliable player that they're just not going to take out of the lineup. Sure, he's playing over Texier. How many games has Texier played lately?
Yeah.
I'm getting a little Tony with Evan right now, so I apologize.
You are.
I'm getting
poor
a little
Evan.
Tony. Yeah, poor Evan. Sorry, buddy. But I don't think, yes, he's got second round stock, but that doesn't mean anything at the NHL level because there's guys that have first round stock. Texier was a first round pick, and it's not matching the NHL competition level. Some guys are just American Hockey League players, and that's not meant to sound like a negative thing. There's guys who have been made in a hell of a career playing over 1,000 games in the AHL. But Alexandrov isn't a top 6 guy. It's probably not a third-line player for you because over a Suter or a Shen or a Joseph, Buchnevich, Neighbors, and then you're talking fourth line. And fourth line is a specific role that I don't think Alexandrov matches compared to Walker or Toropchenko.
Right. All right, let's see. I think I'm going to save this guy for last. Hey, guys, I'm a huge fan of the show, and I've sent some stuff in before, but that was just when I was rather emotional about the Blues playing poorly. It's numbed over now, and I just don't care about the outcomes.
God, I hope there's more to this email.
Oh, Jacob. But I do wonder two things. Could the Blues have made a better splash last offseason? Is it worth drafting top 3 when the draftee could be a bust? And I would like to handle the second half of that question, if you don't mind. If you are drafting in the top 3, I would assume that you got a real good chance of that guy turning out to be a high-level NHL player. Superstar or not, don't know, but high level, I think that the chances are there. So I think there's always a risk, but when you get that high, doesn't it sort of kind of level out the risk a bit?
You'd think, but can I remind you of Nail Yakupov?
Crap. And then now I'm thinking of Capo
Kakko.
And then even Lafreniere from the Rangers. I mean, okay.
Yeah, it can get, he wasn't drafted first overall, but remember Shane Wright with Seattle?
Oh, yeah.
Drafted 4th overall. That was the year that they took Slavkovsky, and then I believe it was a defenseman that was taken before.
Dude, I remember that dude staring down the Montreal table once he got drafted by the Kraken.
Exactly. Yeah. But, look, there's always a chance you could get a bust of a player in the top 3. And for everything that I've seen so far, this isn't like the cream of the crop top of the draft. Like
coming in 2026.
Coming in this upcoming season. Like, I know everybody's talked about Gavin McKenna. He's playing at Penn State right now. He hasn't had the best season. Now he's 17 years old. Not easy to score in somewhat of a men's league like college is, but it's not screaming like this all-generational player like they were making him out to be. And then beyond that, you got a right-handed defenseman who's playing college hockey right now. He's good. I think they said kind of Aaron Ekblad-esque. They've got Otto Stenberg's brother who's playing over in Sweden. I think he might be the guy that gets drafted first overall because he's putting up ungodly numbers over in the Swedish Hockey League. I think they said he's putting up numbers that hasn't been done since Marcus Naslund.
Wow.
So he might be that guy. And then they got another kid playing in the OHL right now, Ethan Belchitz, I think. 6'5", 220 pounds right now in the OHL.
Oh, small guy.
Yeah, small guy. So they've got guys, but you just don't know if you're going to get a Macklin Celebrini who jumps in right away. Are you going to Connor Bedard, who might take a few years? Or are you going to get a Nail Yakupov who never shows up to be that player? That's the problem when you draft first overall, second overall, third overall. A lot of these guys might be busts, and they don't turn out to be the player that you want them to be, which makes me very nervous if that's the way that this season goes.
Right.
You know, it's not like everybody's talking about the clear-cut number 1 overall pick.
Or a deep draft.
Yeah, we're talking about like already controversy of who's going to get selected first overall, which I trust the Blues scouting department if it got to that point where they are selecting that high. But yeah, I mean, there's a chance it's a bust. There's a chance he comes in and it becomes this superstar level player. You're playing craps when you're drafting that high in the draft, and you hope you're not doing it on a consistent basis.
And then his first question, should the Blues have made a better splash in the offseason? I don't think they should have made a better splash. I think they should have just re-signed Ryan Suter.
Yeah, well, that might be part of it. I don't know if Ryan Suter wanted to come back because, remember, Ryan Suter was scratched in that playoff series.
And he wanted to come back. He from what I understand, he wanted some kind of guarantee
that he was in the lineup.
That he was going to be in the lineup. And
he wasn't coming back to sit in the press box.
Yep.
He was coming back to play. And the Blues did want to know what Tyler Tucker was. I mean, it was awesome last year. They needed to see it. And then they made the trade for Logan Mayhew. So I understand why they didn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you missed out on having that player. Here's the part with should have made a bigger splash. What splashes were made?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, to me, you made a pretty good splash of getting Pius Suter, who's, got 5 goals and 10 points for you? Like, that's a hell of a signing that they made.
And it's been one of the few bright spots.
Yeah. But, I mean, the biggest splash that was made was Buffalo and Utah, where they traded Kesselring and Josh Doan for J.J. Paterka.
Yeah.
Now, remember, a lot of people there was rumors that the Blues were in trying to get Paterka from Buffalo. I don't know what was involved in it, but does a middle 6 winger who can score goals, does that make a difference for you right now? I mean, maybe you can't score, but you're pretty loaded on the wing. The problem right now is defense and center. Noah Dobson was the other one that was traded to Montreal.
Yep.
They were in on that. But remember, he wasn't willing to sign a contract extension unless he stayed on the East Coast. And he goes to Montreal, signs the contract extension. I just don't know what other splashes were out there.
Right. I heard that Paterka really, really enjoyed shutting bars down in Buffalo.
Oh.
And I heard that ruffled some feathers.
Well,
that he very much enjoyed being out late and enjoying the early 20-somethings NHL life.
It makes sense then why he was traded to Utah.
Dude, you're not getting anything past 9 o'clock there.
Those bars are shut down before your game's even in the second period, big boy.
All right, I hate to end it this way, but I think it's a very legitimate question that a lot of people are wondering. Now, Jordan did send this message in as the Blues were down 4-0 against the Golden Knights. With 5:38 left in the third period. So he was in the spot already.
He's going to get Tony like Evans was Tony earlier.
Here's what Jordan says. It's just not working. A big move is needed to change the juju of this team. Shin gives the best return on a trade. I absolutely hate it, but we need a shakeup. Thoughts? What are you guys' idea of a major shakeup? Dude, here's my thing.
Yeah, please. I want to hear yours.
Think about this because I don't know the complete answer. I just know that the idea of this team that already has at a terrible time often being drug into the fight, having the one guy traded that drags them into the fight when they need it, or at least attempts to every single game. Man, that is incredibly scary to me. Yeah. But also at the same time, there needs to be some kind of shakeup. Like he's saying, you could get a good return for Shin.
It's the same narrative, though. That's the problem. Like, as much as I don't want to see the Blues trade away Braden Shen, man.
If you don't, you're going to be running back the exact same top 6 or whatever.
We talk about the leadership of the team. People question it all the time, and that's part of it. So here's my thing with this. First of all, I don't think you're getting this major shakeup trade with Braden Shen. Like, you're going to get a first-round pick, maybe a prospect. Not going to be ready for the NHL. You're not flipping Shen for an NHL-ready player that comes in and becomes this all-star. I'm not saying that to, like, degrade where Shen's at. I just don't know how teams value they don't look at Braden Shen the same way you would look at a Jordan Kyrou or a Pavel Buchnevich or a Robert Thomas, right? That's a hockey trade. I think teams that are trading for Braden Shen are trying to upgrade their team, and they're going to bring that in to give up something that's a future asset. Future assets don't make a difference for this team right now. Do they need to make a trade for Shen to just shake it up? I could hear the argument for that, but man, I don't know what you think that's going to do when you trade away a captain in the middle of the season. Essentially, that's waving the white flag on your season. Yeah. When you trade away a captain and say, well, we're bad, trading away our guy that's the voice of the team that's trying to pull you all into the fight, figure it out yourselves. That's not going to get anything done. If you're going to make a trade, plus the thing with Shen too is I'd be very worried about the culture, we think it's bad now. What happens if Shen's gone?
Yeah.
Because Shen's a guy that's a blue through and through. Like the way he plays, the way he goes out there and fights anybody that he needs to make sure his team's in the fight. The problem isn't making a trade to shake things up with Shen. The problem is everyone else responding and not responding when Shen does what he needs to do. If you're going to make a shakeup, it's going to have to be one of your impactful players.
It's going to have to be like a Kyrou type thing.
It's going to have to be one of the guys that are supposed to be leading you and aren't getting the job done. Here's the problem with that. One, no trade clauses. Those guys dictate where they're going to go. Two, you're selling low on them.
Yep.
You could move a Jordan Kyrou, but a team's going to look at this and say, well, why are you moving him right now? So you're not going to get this all-star that comes back and scores 50 goals for you. You're going to probably get pennies on the dollar. Pavel Buchnevich the same way. Robert Thomas, I don't know why you would want to trade that. You want to go to the defensive side. Well, you're not trading Broberg. You can't trade Fowler. You just signed him. Not trading Parayko, so you're going to move Falk. Comfortable with Mayu playing 23 minutes a night right now, so I understand it. Yeah. Things aren't well. You need to make a shakeup. I don't know what the shakeup is.
Here's the thing, though, man, is that so even before we started doing the podcast together, when I was still doing it with Jamie, we had this conversation about slow starts, being drug into the fight, long parts of games without these guys producing. I mean, brother, if it's not during this, if this continues, that core cannot return in the same form next year.
Yeah.
Because if it does, then we're just looking at this again for next year.
It's wild how similar we're talking about this to the Cardinals. And I have avoided this a lot. I don't like to admit it because I thought the Blues were further ahead than where the Cardinals were. Man, for 3 years, we were saying you can't keep coming back with the same core. And what did they do? Kept coming back with the same core. Here's the other thing that I would say when you're trying to make a major shakeup. You don't make a trade and somebody comes in and just becomes the voice of a locker room. You don't go out there and trade for a guy and he's going to be the guy that comes in and is rah, everybody, we're going to rally around each other.
There's an adjustment process there, yeah.
Essentially what you're doing is you're plucking a voice out of the locker room and you're saying the guys that are already here, now you're the voice of the locker room. Maybe that works, but I question why it hasn't worked yet.
Yeah. So
what you need to have happen, your major shakeup, you need one of these younger guys to step up and just say, I'm going to help lead this team. It's why I wonder what happens when Neighbors comes back.
Yeah.
You hope that Jimmy Snuggerud or Dalibor Dvorsky or Justin Carboneau can bring some of that energy to the team in the future. You hope that Broberg can bring that on the defensive side. But you can make a shakeup trade. You got to find a team that also wants to make a shakeup trade. You got to find a team that the player's willing to be traded to. And on top of all of that, you got to hope that you're getting something back in return that's good for you now, because you're not taking a step backwards. You're trying to remain consistent and go forward. So it's a really tough spot to be in. And the bigger concern I think that Blues fans have is, are you stuck? Because, boy, you don't want to get stuck again after we thought they were stuck a couple of years ago, and you're stuck once again. But you're right, Donnie. If this goes south, you got to make some type of change. And it's not the coach. It's not the coach.
Please. And I understand being frustrated all the way around with all parties concerned. But, guys, we have watched this same group do virtually the exact same thing now for 3 different coaches. It ain't the friggin' coach. And I'm not saying that Jim Montgomery is the second coming of Scotty Bowman, even though I do think very, very highly of Coach Montgomery, but this is not him.
Yeah.
This is these guys.
Yeah.
How many times have we had these exact same conversations? I'm exhausted by it.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it frustrates me, and then now I'm at the point where it's starting to piss me off.
Oh, see, this is what the podcast does.
But it's just so friggin' frustrating, man. Well, you know, we all know it just feels like we're kind of caught in this sort of middle ground. And I thought that we were turning that corner, and maybe we weren't. And we were looking at this thing with too much of rose-colored glasses, I suppose. But again, it just goes back to, I don't know a damn thing about hockey.
Well, you're preaching to the choir, and I feel like I've watched it for 11 years. You've been watching it a lot longer. But, I mean, to that point, we can wrap up on this. They did that 26-game stretch where they were dominant. But if you look at what they did in the previous 75 games of that season and the season prior, and then what they've done at the start of this year, they're kind of the same team. It's an outlier that they went on that stretch run for 26 games.
Yeah, man.
Like, that was the hot streak. That was the, hey, we know what we need to do to make the playoffs. We're going to go out there and do it, which is a great thing to have. Like, you could flip a switch and say, we're going to make the playoffs and we're going to go out there and play to that style. But you also have been this team for now a couple of years, struggles to score, struggles to start off hot, struggles in the second period, struggles to stop pucks from going in the net. That's the bigger issue right now that I'm sure Doug Armstrong and Alexander Steen are looking at saying, man, what do we do? I'm not taking anything away from the coaching staff because, look, they're in this just as much as the players are. But I hear Jim Montgomery talk to the style that they need to play, and then you don't see it in action. A perfect example is that Maple Leafs game. He has talked ad nauseum this year, winning board battles, winning puck battles. You better come out of the corner with the puck. And what happened against the Maple Leafs?
You lose the game because you don't.
With because 2 guys.
Yeah, when you had 2 guys to their friggin' 1.
Yeah. So that, to me, like, I think that Maple Leafs game encompasses a lot of where the Blues are at right now. They're not winning the battles. And until you're willing to do that, you're going to keep ending up on the wrong side of a win.
Man, you're just, I mean, you're treading water.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all that is.
Yeah. And I mean, once you post Thanksgiving, if it's tough, I forget what the number is, but it's like 73% of the teams that are outside of the playoffs looking in the salary cap era don't make the playoffs when you're not in it at Thanksgiving. But on top of it, Jim Montgomery was asked the other day in Toronto, you know, at what point in the season do you look at it and say, okay, this is my team and we've got big problems? He goes December 1st. You're 7 games away from that, and you're 2 games below 500, but essentially you've got 14 losses with the 5 overtime losses and then the 9 regulation losses. I think we made ourselves feel better today, Donnie. I don't know about you. We sure did.
All right. Well, I got to go be on the radio.
No, that'll be good.
For our dude, you're Alex Ferrario, Jeremy Rutherford, who is traveling with the Blues.
Out east.
Right now. Alex Ferrario from 101 ESPN. I do know your name.
It's all right. You're mercurial right now. You're in and out.
I try to talk too fast. I can't keep up with myself. Last Minute Blues podcast is presented by Blue Note Roofing, siding, and gutters, your St. Louis roofing experts. Visit BlueNoteRoofingSTL.com for a free inspection. Thank you very much, as always, for listening to the Last Minute Blues podcast. Remember, you can always email us, lmbp@1057thepoint.com. Again, for JR and Alex, I'm Donnie Fandango. Thanks for listening and watching. And as always, let's go Blues.
The Last Minute Blues podcast on 101 ESPN
is presented by Blue Note Roofing, siding, and gutters. Your St. Louis roofing experts. Visit BlueNoteRoofing.com for a free inspection.